Hello there, gentle people, and welcome to another episode of the It's Not Always Dark podcast. I'm Kieran.
And I'm Erin. And today we are talking about one of our shared favourite television programmes, and that is Drumroll Please.
The Good Place. Oh.
Okay, Kieran, you need to cut my drum roll short,
steal my thunder. I didn't realise we were going to go for a drum roll. The band wasn't playing in my headset.
Honestly, the production value on this. One day, when we have our way.
When we have our way, yeah. Yeah, so today we're discussing all things about The Good Place, which comes from the genius creative mind of Michael Schur, who has done such work as Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Office, Parks and Recreation, any type of like situational sitcom humor that you might have loved over the years. This brain's probably been attached to it somehow.
Yeah, and something that just came into my mind there is that so much of his work is breaking the fourth wall.
Very that.
It's it's kind of fun to see him have done something a bit more still very much a comedy, but it is slightly more serious and self-aware, but in a different way. It's
grounded comedy.
Yeah.
His comedy isn't quite going for crazy extravagance as much as it is complimenting the situations of everyday life. I think it's some of my favorite comedy ever. The amount of quotes and fun moments. Yeah,
the character work, all of these programs is astounding. It's they're very well developed. Good. They're very well played. The casts are all lovely. And we have nothing but nice things to say, clearly.
But honestly though, I might not be fully caught up on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but I've fully seen The Office and Parks and Rec, and obviously The Good Place because here we are talking about it. Yeah. But it's just some of my favorite stuff that I've ever watched, and it's quite recent to me as well. I only watched it when I was a teenager, so I think I just got it at the right time of life as well, because I wouldn't have found this as funny, I think, as a kid.
No. I mean, I think you would find it funny, but for a different reason, because there's a lot of slapstick and catchphrases moments, particularly in Brooklyn Nine-Nine or Parks and Rec. In fact, even The Office as well, actually. I'm just having the parkour moment just blasted through my mind there. But
I always just think of Kelly, and I don't say that for slapstick per se, but whenever The Office comes up, Kelly immediately comes into my mind with her entire relationship with Ryan. And then she sits in that one room and she goes, it's oh, do you have anything to say, Kelly? And Kelly's yeah, I do. How dare you? But we're not talking about The Office today. No. We are talking about The Good Place, which is... the premise of The Good Place is that our main character, Eleanor, has died and gone to the afterlife, and she doesn't belong there.
Yeah, so she basically wakes up and is told that she is in the good place, that there is a good place and a bad place, and she has done good enough work, good humanitarian work, has earned enough points in her earth life to get herself a place in the good place. And it is sort of revealed to us pretty quickly that Eleanor does not belong there. That it's been a mistake. No. Miss Eleanor Shellstrop. They got
the wrong Eleanor.
Ain't a good person by any means when we first meet her.
Does she have the exact same last name? Is that why they mistook her for the other?
So
interesting.
So basically two Eleanor Shellstrops died at the exact same time.
Exact same moment.
And then, obviously, the one that was a humanitarian supposedly was sent to the bad place. And
heavily, supposedly around most of this first season. Because today we're only going to talk about the first season in case anyone hasn't watched it.
Yeah, we might mention characters from other seasons, but that's because I'm not talking about Maya Rudolph.
Yeah, but also at the same time, there's quotes and moments I want to talk. Sorry, okay, I take it back. We're talking about the season. Well, the first season is the main point of discussion. We will talk about the rest of the seasons, but not in enough detail that you wouldn't enjoy listening and watching the show yourself.
We in the UK, I believe, have it on Netflix. Even if you're not a Netflix subscriber, you could even just watch clips on YouTube because it's a wholesome time.
I'm gonna stop you right there. If you're telling me that anyone in this country is not at least piggybacking on one Netflix account if they don't have their own, I would not believe it.
I don't know.
If
Well,
you,
my granny and granddad don't even have Wi-Fi.
okay, two people that I know that don't piggyback off another Netflix account. But honestly, it's so easy to watch. Let's just get back into it though. So, yeah, Eleanor discovers that she doesn't belong there, and things start going awry. She
Things start
realizes that she's
falling
the
from the
problem.
sky.
Quite
Ariana
literally,
Grande is
shrimp.
blasting as humongous shrimp fall from the
Right
sky.
now, I'm in a state of mind.
Oh dear.
Was that the reference you were going for?
Yeah, that's one.
Okay.
They're playing Break Free in the background.
So basically, what ends up going down is Eleanor meets her alleged soulmate, Chidi Anagonye, who is a professor of morals and philosophy,
And ethics.
which is very central, and it's a huge part about what The Good Place is as a show. Because as much as it is like a sitcom about the afterlife, it's also very much a discussion about what is right to do as
Yeah,
just a
it's-
human.
I think in a show that's called The Good Place, of course, a question of like what is good / define good, because it means
Yeah.
different things to different people, was always going to be a question. And Chidi is the character that, in educating Eleanor about morals and philosophy in an attempt to help her sort of earn her place in the good place, and stop being so selfish. They're also perhaps informing the audience of some moral dilemmas and concepts that they maybe hadn't heard of before. It's super
Yeah,
fun.
they go through a lot. They reference a lot to other philosophers who have given their piece whenever they've given it, and we move on from Eleanor just like getting her soulmate, and she immediately like kind of confesses to Chidi that she doesn't belong there, which puts Chidi as a character. Chidi is very anxious, nervous. He's a bit of a wreck, and we love him for it because what a mood.
Yeah.
However, to be put in this situation where he's, he thinks he's died and gone to heaven, and he's immediately back to feeling anxious, it creates a lot of a
Yeah, so
Fun
they
moments.
don't want to blow Eleanor's cover, basically. Because the reality is the consequence of her being caught is that she will be sent to the bad place. And
yeah, she'll go to hell.
Chidi would never want to be responsible for doing that to someone.
No,
But also, I like rewatched a bit earlier where it's like Eleanor starting to develop a conscience. And like one of the first moments of her sort of developing that is her saying like, I understand that me even existing in the good place is putting you to Chidi through suffering, because her being there means that Chidi will never meet his true soulmate, which is
Soulmate.
the other Eleanor. So, and
Yeah.
what a concept.
I mean, I'm gonna put a big spoiler out there already. They end up being the big lovers, huge star-crossed lovers, meant to be soulmates. It all works out, so we don't have to feel that bad about this discussion early on. We're then introduced, obviously, so the person that told Eleanor she was in the good place is the architect of the neighborhood, who is Michael. Michael is played by Ted Danson, Eleanor's played by Kristen Bell, and Chidi is played by William Jackson Harper. So Ted Danson plays Michael, Kristen Bell plays Eleanor, and Chidi is played by William Jackson Harper. So back to Michael anyway. Michael is, as I said, like he's the architect of the neighborhood, meaning that he designed it in this like heaven lifestyle, and he's meant to be like a greater being that has never had like a human experience before. So we kind of go on and meet more characters as the show progresses. Michael's right hand being Janet, played by Darcy Carden. The apostrophe capital A for Darcy, because
Why
she's
not?
such an icon. Like, what a way to spell your name. Janet is essentially like Alexa, but like if Alexa could give you everything you ever wanted in the blink of an eye, because she just happens to have that ability.
Yeah, she's sort of like the all-knowing, all-giving, all-having Alexa.
It's just great. Just the best.
Top notch. And the whole concept is that like the good place and the bad place is filled with neighborhoods designed by these architects that would be then tailored to its inhabitants. And obviously each of these neighborhoods having an architect has its own Janet as well. But they're all played by Darcy. Like every single Janet is played by Darcy.
Every single Janet. And like when you eventually meet like her bad Janet, and like there's like a huge point at the end of the series where all the Janets like come together, and she just has various like aliases as Janet. She has like, there's like a disco Janet. Love her.
Love disco Janet. But her basic setting is just very much like she speaks in the phone voice the whole time. Like the performance given is outstanding and hilarious
and also, like,
in every way.
Yeah. And it's also the way that like she manages to slowly come out of that like phone voice accent while still keeping it at the same time.
Yeah.
Like it's a real testament to Darcy's performance in The Good Place, and I desperately hope that she is in every other series that is comedic, serious, tragic, horror. I want her in everything.
And then we have our sort of, to make up the main cast, it's essentially 6 characters. It's Eleanor and Chidi, Michael and Janet, and then we have other neighbourhood residents. This is Eleanor's neighbours. And when we meet them...
Next door.
They are the lovely Tahani Aljamil.
Yes.
And, oh my goodness, Jianyu. I couldn't remember the monk name.
Jianyu slash Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tahani's played by Jamila Jamil, and Jason is played by Manny Jacinto, who I think this was one of his first major performances.
Yeah,
might
it was.
possibly even his first performance. What a cracker of a cast. Like, everyone plays the role that they were given so well. Tahani's character, she comes from a very like extravagant, rich lifestyle, where she was like a British philanthropist, a neck model.
But
like, she has every single name drop in the book.
oh, she loves the name drop. That's basically like the majority of her comedy comes from the name drop, and it's hysterical.
Yeah.
But she's also very, very middle class, very of a wealthy background, but is the sort of secondary child. Has always been compared to her sister. And
It's very the shadow.
yes, the shadow, and obviously all the name dropping, etc., is very much a cry for attention.
Yeah.
And that's sort of her journey through the show. And then we have Jason, who we meet as Jianyu.
He's meant to be like a Buddhist monk to begin with in the series, which I'm gonna spoil something real quick about season 1, because we're just talking about everything here. Basically, the end of season 1, Eleanor discovers that they are in fact not in the good place, and that this entire setup is the bad place. They are being experimented on by Michael, who, although he may appear as a villain toward the end of that first series, he later becomes like a strong ally to the cast, and you really love him.
For the sake of the first, he's actually a bad place architect.
Yes,
but
and
he wants to come up
been
with
trying to torture these people in a way that these 4 people should not be able to get along at all, because, you know, Chidi is so anxious that someone like Eleanor, who naturally in like her previous life was quite mean and manipulative, like those 2 people being put together, like that just creates torture. And then Tahani's case is that being with a Buddhist monk is literally denying her all social interaction, and I mean, Jason also, like, as Jianru, he's expected not to talk because he's a silent monk, which, when Jason starts to talk, you understand, is also torture for him.
Yes, so Jianyu, we find out, like Eleanor, is also not meant to be in the good place. It's revealed way before all
quite
of this.
early on.
Yeah. So we find out that it is in fact Jason. And Jason is the epitome of Florida.
He is a Floridian?
Is very...
He was born in a swimming pool.
Simple.
Yeah, he's a simple but sweet person.
And that's the thing, is as much as like he died trying to rob a restaurant.
He died. We'll go over the deaths actually afterward, but
so
he dies that way.
He dies trying to rob a restaurant, but he is very loving and kind, and the relationship that blooms between him and Janet is hysterical.
I would also like to just put out there, Janet had no part of this like bad place shenanigans. The Janets are like a neutral existence in the world where they can be like made to be like, think of it like okay, this is the best way to describe it. The good place and the bad place architects, like they're all like different like business firms, but they have like a mutual access to this one shared product, which is the Janet. So Janet, I just want to put out there, since we've talked about Michael being a bit of a bad guy and Janet being like the right hand being to Michael, completely innocent. Had no idea.
No,
but she helps. She helps everyone.
She very much does. So to summarise, the good place premise of the show: Eleanor is dead, wakes up in the afterlife, that's when we meet her, speaks to Michael the architect. She's told that she is in the good place, and she realises that she probably shouldn't be there, and that also Jason shouldn't be there. As the series goes on, they face some trials and tribulations, some hilarity as the world around them starts to collapse, and they believe that it is because they are imposters there. The whole reveal at the end, the plot twist, is that this was all planned, that this is all happening because Michael is actually a bad place architect. And the drama of it all. It was
a shocking reveal. Like, I remember the first time I watched it, I was not expecting that twist.
Yeah.
Because the tone shifted as well. And I think it's like one of the only times the show ever does it. But to be put in that, I mean, if you've watched like The Office or Parks and Recreation, any of these shows, they're so lighthearted and you feel that just in the atmosphere, that when they drop that atmosphere to do something a bit sinister, it's so surprising. And it's one of those moments that I will never forget about The Good Place. Like, it is the most iconic moment for me personally.
Yeah, I think it very much ties into, and I think this is like across Michael Schur's work, that the idea that like things having an end, or things, the bad parts of life, is what makes the good stuff meaningful. And I think you can see that across everything, but especially The Good Place, as obviously the show goes on, the biggest theme becomes that the fact that there is death or an end to any sort of life is what makes the living part meaningful. And that is probably like one of my favourite takeaways from a TV programme. Like, how rich.
How rich.
How, like, thoughtful.
So, one thing I just wanted to talk about real quickly was how each of the characters died, because the circumstances in which they die is hysterical.
So funny.
So,
because it is a comedy.
Drops... Yeah. Eleanor, like, she leaves, like, the supermarket, and she, like, rejects this guy who's just trying to, like, get her to sign a signature for...
saving the planet.
Some cause that's of purpose. And she drops her frozen margarita mix and is then hit by an oncoming like row of trolleys, shopping carts in America, and then she's also hit with a truck. Yeah,
those trolleys then push her out onto like a main road where she is hit by a truck, and that's how she dies.
Yeah, that's game over,
and
man.
Like, I think like the name of the margarita mix is like Lonely Girls Margarita Mix for One or something. And honestly, now every time I'm in the Tesco car park, I just like I have to think to myself, like,
you haven't picked up.
What if this is it? Like, what if I die and this is what's in my trolley? Like, they just see like an uncool amount of ice cream. Like, they're like, the gal needs to chill on the mint choc chip. Like,
Chidi ends
Oh,
up dying because basically Chidi has always been indecisive, and he is just about to be the best man for his best friend's wedding, and they're just leaving the house, I think, to go, and it's something very like minor, like maybe like he hasn't booked an Uber trip or something. They were disagreeing on something, and then out of nowhere, like an air conditioning unit falls from the top of his apartment building and just knocks him dead.
yeah, like so
One
like
hit.
if he had just kept walking and gone with his decision, he would not
He
have
would have
died.
missed it.
Whereas
Yeah.
it was ultimately his indecisiveness that brought him to
Yeah.
an end.
As for Tahani, because she's so, envious of her sister, she ends up like ambushing one of her sister's many successful launches of. Her sister does everything. That's the running joke, is that there's nothing Tahani can do better than her sister, because her sister's already like achieved the highest form of praise for whatever it is that she's done. So Tahani ambushes her at like this launch party, and she tries to pull a statue down that's been put up in honor of her sister, and in a very poetic and ironic death, she is killed by the weight of her sister as a statue, crushing her.
That is just wild to me. Like, I can't imagine being that jealous of someone. But then maybe it's
Yeah.
because I'm not super competitive. But
And also, like, I feel like the circumstances around being a rich person make you a different type of person.
yeah. But just imagine knowing that something was going to fall on you, like seeing it happen. Like, that's
Oh,
like the panic that must have gone through
Yeah.
a person.
not the moment.
Very funny.
And then, I mean, lastly,
This is my
Jason,
favorite. I love this so much.
So Jason is, like, as Erin said earlier, trying to rob a restaurant, and he and one of his friends come up with a plan to sneak Jason into the restaurant inside of like an old-timey safe.
No, I was going to say, so like it's under the ruse that they're going to be installing this safe to the restaurant.
Yeah. Which, honestly, the plan could have worked in some regard. However, they forgot one minor detail, that Jason did not plan for any air hole or any way to breathe inside of
No,
this.
he did.
And so he's,
He did. He took a snorkel.
but there was no way for him to breathe out of it.
There was a
That's how
snorkel,
he
just no
died.
air.
Yeah, he brought a snorkel, just he didn't have any way to get the air into said snorkel. And so he unfortunately suffocated to death. I'd hate that. I know this isn't like the fears or like the death podcast, but like, oh my god, like suffocating? That probably sucks.
Well, that, like suffocating plus like the claustrophobia. He was in a safe.
Oh yeah, the claustrophobia. We should, do you know what? We're gonna get you guys to tune into like one of our later podcasts, because we're gonna find a guest that has both suffocated and died in a claustrophobic setting, and we're gonna just ask them what it's like. Exclusive.
Exclusive. Like thoughts from the afterlife with Kieran and Erin.
Thoughts from the afterlife.
Oh, I love that.
Only.
So, what are some of your favourite things about the characters in this show? Because we've said before that we love Michael Schur and the writing team on The Good Place and all the other shows' character work.
I would say for me, and I'm just gonna start with my absolute love of the show. When Darcy is playing Janet, it's just the way that she is able to embody like all of the serial X-ness of it all while still being hysterical. Like, I don't think people give enough credit to the fact that her role on paper probably would be really boring. Like, Erin and I are big fans of Drag Race, and if that was a Drag Race challenge and someone was given that script, that would bomb very easily without the right actor, saying the lines.
So many names going through my mind right now.
They're Russian, and
We're fresh off an episode and it's...
it's really hit us.
But, yeah, I love... I mean, Janet as a concept, as you said, could be so basic, but...
So boring.
And it would still fine. It would be fine. It would function.
Yeah.
But the way that it has been made funny by Darcy is tippity top notch stuff, if you ask me.
Also, we need to, like, I know that this probably goes more to like a favorite moment type thing and not so much a character discussion, but when she plays every single, like, so basically, one stage in The Good Place, all of the characters end up in what is called Janet's Void. And Janet's Void is like this inner place within herself that she can take people into should she want to. But something goes up and she basically ends up turning all of the characters that have come into her void into versions of herself because she can't. So basically Darcy ends up playing every role
in the cast.
And she does everyone perfectly.
Hysterical. Yeah, like her Chidi, her Eleanor, her Jason.
Her kiss with herself.
Her kiss with herself.
But then also she gets to kiss Eleanor.
Yeah. But that's like a whole dynamic throughout the whole thing is like Eleanor's bi-ness. Like,
oh yeah, she's constantly going on about the fact that she thinks she's into Tahani. Like, she says it many times.
Yeah.
She's like, that might be a discussion we need to have another day, but because obviously they're going up against this huge crisis of just the pressures of the world on their shoulders.
I know, but Eleanor's like quite
one day.
a sexual being. She's very just like...
Oh, she's very sexual.
And I love that. We love
why...
a strong, independent, sexual woman as the lead in a show. Like...
Yes. Especially when it's Kristen Bell, because she does it in such a way that is so funny.
And also plays Princess Anna. Like, get you a girl that can do both.
Get you a girl that could do both. When she's Anna in the streets, but Eleanor in the sheets.
Oh, that's funny.
What about you? Like, what characters?
I mean, we've spoken about a lot of the main characters, and I relate to Chidi deeply in the constant anxiety to the extent that it makes him physically ill. Like, that's...
Yes.
We've set a relatable content there. I think Eleanor as a character, I love seeing main characters that are human and flawed and...
Yeah. She's very flawed, and that's the genius of it.
And doesn't always make the right choice. And, you know, very much you're on the journey with her. Like, I love that of it all. But I just want to take a second to just shout out some of these not side characters, but
I am already prepared to scream the name.
Not main roles. We have... I'm going to not do the one that you're thinking of first because I want to build up to it because she's my absolute favourite.
Okay, we'll build.
So we have some cameos from... I say cameos, they are recurring characters from other shows that we've mentioned today.
Yes.
So we have Sean, who plays the judge in the first series, but is actually the overall director of The Bad Place. And
Judge in quotation marks,
Yeah.
because I can see what Erin's doing, but you can't.
I mean, you can if you've seen the show, and I'm assuming if you've chosen to listen to this, you've probably seen the show. But
Possibly.
So he plays... Sean is the judge / director of The Bad Place, CEO of The Bad Place. And he is played by, I don't know the actor's name, but it's Kevin from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And
yeah, he's the husband of our police chief.
Captain Holt's husband, Kevin, yeah.
Oh, Captain Holt.
Yeah, and then we have the lovely Mindy St. Clair, who lives in a realm between The Good Place and The Bad Place. She has her very own medium place, and she is this
She's the only
cocaine-fueled 80s power woman.
But she's not cocaine-fueled because she cannot get any.
Well, she was. That's who...
in the past?
Yeah, and then, so, like, her medium place is that she's a one-off exception, where she has things that are, like, she basically was a horrible person, but did one exceptionally good thing that kind of happened by accident. And so there was no way for her to go anywhere but this medium place that they made, where she has lukewarm beer, and, like, she has TV, but
it's
only
all
one
of her
thing.
favourite things, but, like, the crappy version of it. Like, that's the only way that The Good Place and The Bad Place could come to an agreement of what should happen to this person who just fell directly in the middle in the point system. I think, she must have just averaged out at, like, a 0 then. Because she didn't do bad or she didn't do too good because of how it worked out.
Yeah. It's, I mean, she's just a really funny character. Like, a fun, straight-talking...
She's very funny.
Top-notch gal.
And to link into Mindy St. Clair, so Janet creates a boyfriend to have as like a rebound because Jason and one of basically Michael ends up wiping the memories of the main cast because they discover his plan,
Several
and he has to
times.
keep doing this. Many times, but in doing so, the first time around when Jason and Janet, got together and got married and everything, Janet didn't forget anything, but Jason did. So Jason, he ended up having a little thing with Tahani because they were meant to be soulmates, and this set up anyhow, so it kind of worked out that way. But in doing so, it made Janet feel quite bad, so she decided to make herself a rebound boyfriend called Derek.
I love that.
who
I can relate to that. I'm like, if I
is
could make a rebound boyfriend for myself, it's definitely something I would have done.
and Derek's played by the same actor that plays Adrian Pimento in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So it's almost the same performance. It's just chaotic comic energy.
Yeah.
That is what he puts out there. And so he ends up being put in the medium place with Mindy St. Clair because she doesn't have like a Janet there. And this is the only way that I think they could also agree to letting her have someone give her things. Because she can't have good and she can't have bad. So
She can have Derek.
Here's Derek. You could have Derek.
Going on from that, we also have the bad place demon Trevor, who is played by the lovely Adam Scott from
So funny.
Parks and Rec. So funny. And he has not a massive role in this, but like seeing Adam Scott be a bad boy,
role.
like in a leather jacket.
So funny.
So
It's
funny.
because, like, when you've watched Parks and Rec and you've seen his characters, like the nerdy, lovable boyfriend of Leslie who just wants to support her after making like a huge mistake in his past, we're gonna get into it on the Parks and Rec podcast.
Yeah,
that
we're
should be coming
definitely.
up
There's no way we're
sometime.
not doing a Parks and Rec ep.
It has to happen. Who knows? We'll maybe even get around to doing them all. But when you see this like antithesis performance where he is no longer it makes me think of that meme back in the day where it's like, I'm a good boy, but I want to be bad for you. That is very what he is giving in this role, and it's so funny.
So funny. And to round out my favourite character, apart from
excited.
the main cast, but played by one of
considering where she entered the show, like the halfway point.
Yeah, so
to take over
last
like
episode
this.
of series 2, or like the second last episode of series 2, we face the real judge, and
The
she
judge
is
of the
played
universe.
by my favourite actress of all time. It's Miss Maya Rudolph, everyone.
Maya Rudolph. I'd love her.
What a funny
can do no
lady.
wrong.
Like, I mean, well, to be fair, she did that Adam Sandler Halloween film that came out last year, and that was...
No, but that wasn't her fault.
I mean, she could have
She was
said... She could have been
friends.
like, Adam, baby, like, this is not the one. Like, no,
Wait,
no.
was she in like a main role, or was it like a side role?
It was like a side role, but like...
That's not on her.
Okay.
Unless you're the main cast, that ain't on you.
Okay. But anyway, her in this, like,
Did you know? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm gonna interrupt. Did you know that she is the daughter of Minnie Riperton?
I did. She is a musician, she's an actress, she's a comedy queen, she was on SNL.
The way-
Another joint love of
Oh,
mine and Kieran's is
we're
SNL.
gonna. Every time we talk about things, all I think about is the fact that we need to do an episode on it. So, like, SNL.
It's just as well this is a
100% needs to be
weekly
its own
occurrence.
Thank God.
I know, stay subscribed for more, people.
Good for Maya, though. Like, imagine
she
being,
was-
like, the daughter of someone so famous and so well known for, her iconic whistle notes for stars, Loving You. Who could resist that voice? But she doesn't have, like, any... I mean, she's obviously not Maya Riperton. Like, she's not got the same last name. So for her to have done what she's done for herself...
Yeah, well, she was in like a Prince cover band and stuff as well. Like, I think she continues to be in a
Oh.
Prince cover. Like, she's
I love
absolutely
that.
hysterical. Like, the woman is fantastic. I love it so
She's the
much.
best.
But her as the judge in this role, this character is like the chief of the universe, but is just
Yeah,
like
she decides the fate.
so blasé and so just like eating her Tex-Mex.
Like, she has a burrito on her desk the first time we meet her, and she's coming back with like a bottle of hot sauce,
Like,
because she forgot it. And they think,
references other sitcoms the whole way through. Like, I'm pretty sure she talks
Yeah.
about like Friends and stuff like that. And
and like, she's okay, so she's meant to be, as she states herself at one point, she's meant to be impartial and fair to any circumstances that might occur, and that means that she's not meant to be in the know-how of what's happening in the human world. However, she does a really bad job of it, because all she does is reference, like, her references are just so funny and out there. Like, you don't expect her to come out with something like, I mean, like you're saying, the Friends discussion for starters. Like, she decides how the world runs.
yeah,
And
she's
she's talking about Ross and Rachel.
but it's just like with that classic like high energy, but like could be like so close to being over the top, but isn't
Yeah.
Maya Rudolph energy that is just like her signature. I love it. I think it adds so much,
Oh, it does.
and I just love her. Okay, I
I love
really
her
like
so
it.
much.
Do you have? Let's do some top moments, our favorite moments
Okay.
of the show, and then we're going to go into a little game of who said it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just have to state, I already mentioned earlier, that moment at the end of the series where all the Janets, like, unite.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so funny because basically the Janets all decide they're gonna, like, stand up against the judge and stop her from erasing the world, or at least buying them enough time to come up with a solution.
Yeah.
And in doing so, like, when they all come in, Disco Janet does like this spin and is like doing these like finger gun hands and has the most like fluffy hair that you've seen Janet have in the entire series. And Janet, they're like, we have a group text now. Like, it's like the end of the universe for all the Janets to just get on a group text.
I love that. Oh, I feel like Disco Janet, like them singing Ring My Bell, like her and
Ring
the
My
judge
Bell.
singing Ring My Bell.
It's when the
So
judge ends
funny.
up being like, well, that's where that whole moment of impartiality and fairness like is so ironic, because right after the judge says that, inside one of the Janet's voids, she's literally singing I'm gonna end the world to the like the beat of Ring My Bell.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you guys like need to watch if you haven't watched it. Like, even with us having spoiled this an amount, it's just so worth the watch. It's worth it. I've rewatched
So
it
worth
several
it.
times. I find it very soothing. A personal favorite moment of mine, I think, is within like the first half hour of the show, and it's Michael. So basically, like, he takes Eleanor into the neighborhood, and she's
Yeah.
like, "There's a lot of frozen yogurt shops here," and this sort of like introduces us to Michael's fascination with humanity, and he
so
eventually
fascinated.
like, you know, he gives me very like Mr. Weasley vibes, like, in that he's just like
Yeah.
obsessed with like muggles and like life as a human. And there's a quote that he says that he's like, there's just something about frozen yogurt that's just so human, and that it's like taking something like ice cream, which is really, really good, and then just making like a little bit worse so that you can have more of it.
It's also the fact that, to go off of the frozen yogurt, where Jason says that he like should have realized that he was in the bad place sooner because of all the diarrhea that he gets from the frozen yogurt.
Yeah.
And like Chidi is like, do you maybe want to stop eating frozen yogurt right now? Because we're just about to go on like a hot air balloon.
Oh, I forgot about that. But yeah, what I wanted to say about that quote is like, it's so like, the show is filled with little tiny throwaway moments like that. Like, there's
Yeah.
another one where it's a complete throwaway line where she's like, oh, I should have known this was the bad place, because like everyone knows that chowder is just dead sea animal soup with like sea croutons or something. Like, it's something really hilarious and much better put than that, but Like
it's
I
those
just can't.
moments.
The writing on it is just so good.
They're very like they're providing a commentary
and
on
it's
life
detailed. It's
whilst
so
not
like
making it a big deal.
detailed. Yeah, it's like it's not an Easter egg because it's just part of the script, but it's just like
Yeah.
the more you watch it, the more you discover about it, and I just love that.
Yeah.
And I can't stop watching it ever.
Can't stop.
I'm just like
I've got a
I literally
problem.
just have like all of the shows that we've spoken about today on a cycle forever for my whole life.
I mean, one more like favorite moment for me that like I always think about is just it's the very end of the show, because one of the huge things about them finally being able to like figure out the point system and like get it so people can actually go to the good place, because a huge problem is that they discuss, this is another like commentary on life, is that Michael's basically speaking to the judge and saying, hey, it's not the humans' fault. They think they're doing one thing when really they're doing 7 different things by just doing one thing.
Yeah, like being a good person.
Any sort of thing
is
they do
hard.
has a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like being a person's hard, and the point system was like made at the beginning of time where just doing little things would have been easy. But as time's gone on and things have just naturally like gotten worse.
Or even
It's
just gotten more
become-
developed, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, like things have gotten worse, but like just say things were all cushy. Just like the expansion of the world, like in order, like every action that you have, because
Has a
there's so much
consequence.
more world and people and internet and media. One action has like, as you said, like that ripple effect that
Yeah.
like just goes so much further now. That like I think the reference they use is like buying a tomato. By buying that tomato, the person has like bought into underpaying farmers or
Yeah. And also like
global warming and
like robbing the planet of its natural resources and like ruining the soil and all this thing. Like there's any like effect that happens, basically everyone is put into the negative space. Michael brings this up to the judge and they eventually end up fixing it, and in doing so they finally get to meet the people that have been in the good place for like a long time, and they discover that this is like where that point of life only has meaning for the good moments and it needs to have an end at some stage. And because in the good place they were just kind of partying on and living up there, none of them really got to pass over, and so they come up with a way that allows people, when they're ready, to go to like this foresty area and enter a gateway that just blips them out of existence.
yeah, it was the whole like a good thing can only be enjoyed for so long, and then eventually
Yeah.
and that's sort of how we end off the series, is like saying goodbye to the characters as they all choose their next steps, which is
All but one.
well, yeah, I just didn't want to like I wanted to leave some mystery for people.
Sorry. Well, we won't say who.
Yeah, like they make their choices and they start moving on, and it is just such a lovely message of just like things have
very
it
nice.
makes, I think it's a good way for teaching people to accept death, like
Yeah.
or like helping someone who's struggling with or like even yourself, helping yourself deal with the concept of death is sort of like the things that I do now have meaning because
Yeah.
it will eventually come to an end, and that's I like soothing in a way, also just terrifying, but you know, a final point that I wanted to say that I really liked about the show was the way that they talked about different moral dilemmas throughout. And the example I'm going to use is like Chidi explains the trolley problem to Eleanor. And I think it's just because I did RMPS at school. I did it like religious, moral and philosophical studies.
Of course, yeah.
And
RE.
but it was like philosophy and morality as well, so it
Yeah,
wasn't just
included
religious
in it.
studies. That was like one of my favourite subjects at school, and it just like brought back all the memories of that, and like me being like, maybe I didn't get really thick as soon as I left school. Like maybe I do still remember things.
There's so much to learn in the world,
Yeah.
though, that like I think it is important. You have to have these moments where you've discovered something like really applied to you outside of school, because it does sometimes feel as though like what you've learned doesn't have any meaning after high school ends.
Oh
But
my god. I
our
just
MPS definitely did.
But I've just had like, as I started thinking about Chidi, I just remembered two key moments that I loved from him. And one, I'm going to talk about the peeps in the chili pot. And I'm not going to say any more about it, but the people who know of it.
For the ones that know, you know.
And the people that haven't seen it and don't know what I'm talking about, I need you to just go and watch, just like YouTube, peeps in the chili pot. Chidi.
Yeah. But can I also just quickly insert, to go alongside as like a complimentary side dish to the peeps in the chili pot, the postman uniform.
That was my other point, yeah.
Oh. I said, oh, you want to make the point?
I'm going to take
honey,
it.
Keep dreaming.
Chidi in the postman uniform, iconic. We waited so long
the judge
for him.
is into him.
I mean, rightly
of the
so.
universe.
I mean, if the judge
Miss Maya
is saying, he's a good one, then maybe it's a sign.
It's been ruled.
I think I need a judge in my life just to be like, this is a good one. Like, maybe don't go for that.
I'll judge.
Do you know what? You're entrusted. That's it.
I've been appointed.
You've been appointed.
Do we have like a ceremony? Do I get like?
I'll get you a robe.
The sword on the shoulders.
I'll send you one of the post. I'll sew you one.
If you send me a really ugly like barrister wig, is that what they're called?
No, it's me. It's gonna have glitter on it. Like, I don't know who you think you're talking to.
Okay, we'll go for it. Oh. Okay, now we've got to the point of the podcast where we have decided we're gonna have a little bit of a game.
We're gonna play a game
show section. Oh. Let's get gaming.
So
we taught you in a previous episode about video games, and we've decided to continue gaming.
Basically, the name of the game is Who Said It. How it's gonna work is
who said it.
We're gonna read out quotes that we have selected, and the other person has to say/guess who said it.
Whomst and what's about it. Maybe. But
and
also
what's about some context. But I've provided context that might be used as a clue beforehand. So
some of mine don't have context.
I've taken mine out of context, but have written the context next to it so that I could suggest.
Maybe let's. Okay. Do you want me to go first?
I would love you to go first. I know that I'm not going to get any of these because I've not actually
No, but like you might just think about the essence of who would say these lines.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start with claustrophobic. Who would ever be afraid of Santa Claus?
That feels like a Jason line.
It is in fact a Jason line. Ding ding ding, points to Erin.
I very nearly overthought that there. Like I was close to overthinking.
My hint to you was literally going to be, we just discussed about the suffocation and claustrophobia, and I think that's the context of this quote, is that someone's like, weren't you claustrophobic? And he's like, well, no, I'm not scared of Santa.
Well, I'm going to follow you on that with something that we've spoken about a lot during this episode.
Oh my god, if I don't get it though.
The quote is, "Gah, those infectious disco grooves."
If that's not Disco Janet.
No.
Oh, the judge.
Yeah.
Okay, there was two people it could have been. Disco Janet. I was going to say, now that I think about it, Janet wouldn't really come out with gah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the judge in the Disco Janet void looking for the clicker end of the world thingy.
The clicker end of the world thing. That's a direct quote, by the way. There's not an official term for the end of the world button. It's a clicker thingy.
Hysterical.
I'm gonna go with... I have to do this one, and I feel like it'll just give it away. But I don't care. I have to give the performance for this one. Look at him! Look at them! Look at them! When I tell you, I'll give you a bit of context. So this is a failsafe.
Oh, it's Janet trying to stop Chidi or Eleanor from pressing the reset button, and she's got a picture of the children that she says is a picture from a screenshot taken from the crowd of a Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Award crowd.
so close to being literally 100% correct. It's actually Michael she's saying it to because it's in the reset period where he keeps resetting
Oh,
Janet
I
as
thought
well.
it was. There is a there. Oh,
But like, you basically gave me 99% of that, and I will take it.
okay. I have tickets to Hamilton next week, and there's a rumor that David Diggs is coming back.
It's Janet.
It's Janet!
The same. It's the fail-safe measure. She's giving every excuse that she can come up with because they want to make it seem as human as possible before a Janet is reset to scare off anyone that might try and do it like on a whim
Yeah.
for the kicks and giggles.
So there's a button that would basically reset the Janet and like wipe the system and start over again. Factory reset, if you will. It's factory reset. That's what we're looking to say. But honestly, to see David Diggs in Hamilton is the dream.
My next one, I this one really gets me. I've only ever said I love you to two men in my life. Stone Cold Steve Austin and a guy in a club who I mistook for Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I can hear it and I can remember it, but I don't know.
Okay, my hint would be who has long-standing issues with men and would be in a situation that she would only say I love you.
Well,
to one
is it
person.
Eleanor? Because my first thought was
It
Eleanor.
is in fact Eleanor.
But then I was like,
It
her
is, in fact.
her saying I love you, I think is a weird thing. So I was like, maybe it wouldn't be Eleanor.
Oh, but it is a weird thing.
Yeah.
It's so funny that her one exception to the rule is WWE superstar Stone Cold Steve Austin.
So I have 3 left, and I think we're pretty even.
Pretty say it.
Unless the burrito is the judge.
I mean, okay, so there's 4 people this could be, and I'm gonna go with Jason just because I feel like he would be the first to suggest something so ludicrous.
You're so correct.
Okay. My next one is, I would say I outdid myself, but I'm always this good. So I simply did myself.
That is Tahani through and through. There's no way that that's not Tahani.
I wish that I had just an ounce of confidence that Tahani possesses. The way that she is the most self-assured woman in the world, whilst also, like, her character's so fascinating because she's so confident and yet so unconfident at the same time. How she does it.
But she knows what she's good at, and she knows that she does that well. It's everything else that she's insecure about. And it's the lack of attention from other people. So she kind of has to reassure herself. This isn't me speaking from experience. I don't know what you mean. But here's the thing, my little chilly babies. All 3 of those theories are hot, stinky cat dookie.
So immediately, because we've mentioned Chili, I know it's Chidi, and it's so funny to me because the other option, I have 2 options for my final quote, and I'm now not going to use the Chidi one because it would be Chidi after Chidi.
You put the peeps in the chili pot.
You put the Chidi in the pot.
I mean,
my other quote for Chidi was going to be, I'm pretty good at turning every place I go to into my personal hell.
I wouldn't have got that.
Like, that shouldn't be
I would not
funny.
have got that.
Yeah, it's a very, like, it's a vague one, but I feel like if you give it some thought, who would turn their everywhere they go into a nervous place to be? So I'm gonna go with, if you're the devil, how come you're not wearing Prada? This one's a bit, like, it could throw you a little bit, because it's referencing a movie and also fashion. But think of it more from the movie standpoint.
I just, like, I have a gut instinct, like a gut response.
Go with
But it
just give me
also
your
could
gut
just be
instinct.
so wrong. It feels like a Jason line.
It is in fact a Jason line.
Is it actually?
It is indeed.
Wow.
You crushed it.
Well,
That's like 5 for 5, right?
I mean, with some... Well, you didn't do the cheaty one.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we're not against each other.
And then this is... Okay, this is my last one. And this is, like, a very, like, lovely moment to me. And she goes... I've said she already. Oops.
Well...
But you'll know...
It's not Janet.
You'll know, like, the second that I say it, like, what it is. She goes, this sucks, and I'm furious, and I'm the happiest I've ever been, and I blame you.
I mean, my gut instinct's Tahani. But
No.
is it maybe Eleanor?
So that was Eleanor to Postman Chidi. I'm gonna turn on.
I mean, I should have gotten it from the performance, to be fair, but at the same time, there's a fine line between like Eleanor's like I'm frustrated and Tahani's I'm a bit entitled
Yeah.
delivery. Do you know what I mean? It felt very Tahani, but that's what you get for having a shit gut instinct, Kieran. That's what you
don't
get.
have a shit guns. Okay.
Well, with these quotes being all fun and dandy, I think we're gonna wrap this episode up here. We highly recommend that you check out any of Michael Schur's work, but you know, The Good Place is what we've just talked about, and if you've made it to this point, maybe consider giving the original work something of a listen.
So thank you so much for listening to this episode of the It's Not Always Dark podcast. We have had an absolute hoot
folks.
talking about The Good Place. It's one of our favourite TV shows. As Kieran said, we highly recommend it. We have some more TV/media episodes coming up soon as well. So if you want to suggest anything, like if there's a TV show that you think that we should review, we could do like a sort of media club thing, like a book club. That might be quite fun.
Oh, that'd be cute.
Thank you so much for listening. If you made it all the way to the end, I would like to ask that you consider subscribing to the It's Not Always Dark YouTube channel. That would mean so much to both of us.
Just a little subscription.
You're here anyway, and it's free, but you know, it's fine.
It's free.
And with that being
and
said,
while you're there,
thank you for listening to the It's Not Always Dark podcast. We have been Kieran and Erin. I hope you have a lovely week, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.